Hi, we are Helen and James, and we are Global Nomads. Follow our journey as we sell everything we own to achieve financial independence and retire early. We'll be fulfilling our dream to travel the world full-time, visiting new places, having new experiences, and making new friends along the way. Are you ready? Let's go. Happy New Year from Colombo in Sri Lanka. We are Helen and James, and we are full-time travelers, Global Nomads, the retirement edition. If you're new here, you'll still be catching up on our adventures from 2024, but as it's now January the 1st, 2025, we thought we'd give you a little bit of a summary of what we've done in the last 9 months of our first year of full-time travel. So, to start off, here are some of the headlines. We travelled in a total of 35,723 miles.
We took 3 cruises.
We took 36 trains.
We took 12 flights.
And we visited 17 states in the US.
We visited 15 countries, and 14 of those were in the last 6 months.
And we slept in a total of 71 different beds.
We used a total of 7.7 million credit card air mile points, whichever way you want to call it.
And we used those for flights and accommodation. And we saved a total of around $135,000 by using those points. So that's our overall summary. Let's take a deeper dive into each of those areas. So before we left the US in April, we had planned to achieve status with the hotel brands that we were planning to use. So in order to achieve this, we did a couple of things.
So the first one we did is we did what's called a status match, where we contacted, in this situation, Hyatt, and we asked them for a challenge. And they gave us a challenge that if we travelled to 20 nights of hotels in 3 months, that they would give us status called Globalist. And that's what we wanted, which is the top tier of Hyatt. So we got top tier of Hyatt by staying before we left. We also have Hilton Honors Diamond through the Amex Aspire card. We have IHG Premier credit card, and we have Diamond status with IHG. And Marriott is the only one we don't have top tier status. We have gold status with them with the Marriott Bonvoy Amex credit card.
And just to clarify on that status match, we already had status. We've had status with Hilton for quite some number of years through various things. We tend to stay in Hiltons and accumulate Hilton points. So we called Hyatt and said, we're already diamond with Hilton, will you match that status? And then more often than not, they'll give you a challenge of sorts to actually achieve that. So for us, in order to achieve those extra nights that we needed to get Globalist status, and that was important to us because we were going to be staying at a lot of Hyatts over the next few months, especially in the US. We took a couple of road trips around Florida, which we were already going to do, and stayed in some lower, honestly, kind of the cheaper end Hyatt. So we stayed at Hyatt houses and Hyatt places, and took a run down to West Palm Beach, Miami, and down to the Keys. So we were able to achieve those extra nights and still do what we wanted to do. So we weren't really doing anything extra, and we also used points to pay for those nights too. So unlike not all the reward systems do that, but with Hyatt, when you stay a night, you still accrue points as well. So that's what we did. That's how we achieved status with all of the hotel chains. Now, what that status means is that whenever you stay in the hotel, you'll either get room upgrades, you'll get perks like free breakfast, you might get a welcome amenity. Basically, you know, there's an easier check-in, you might get late checkout, all those kind of things.
Afternoon drinks,
yep.
Nibbles, executive lounges, and with 3 of the hotels, if you book for 4 nights or with IHG 3 nights, you get a 5th night free.
Or a 4th night free.
Free. So if you booked 4 nights on a Hilton with points, which we've just done in Amangiri, the Maldives. You pay for 4 nights, you get 1 night free.
And for us, lounge access is also really important because that can help massively with cost for eating. More often than not, in some of the nicer hotels, like their evening drinks and hors d'oeuvres that they serve will often be a hot meal, essentially. So you really then don't need to go and eat that night if you've had enough there. And especially if you're in an area where alcohol is expensive, like the UAE, for example.
Or the Maldives.
Or the Maldives, if you've got perks like that, like with a lounge access, then they can save you a big amount of money. So now we're going to talk about what we did when we first left in April and where our actual nomad adventure started. So before we left the US, we also knew that there were a lot of places we wanted to go that were sort of bucket list places we'd never had the chance to do. Despite living in the States for 20 years, being able to take an extended trip or go to some of these places had always proved a little bit more challenging. So between January and March, before we left, we were still trying to sell our house and sell all our belongings, but we took the status run to Florida. And we also decided we wanted to go and see the cherry blossom in Washington, DC, which we had attempted to go twice before and didn't get to see it because the predicted dates were wrong. But this year we did actually go and get to see it. The other place, because we were close by, we're like, hey, let's just hop on a plane and go up to Niagara Falls too, because that was somewhere else that we'd never got to go to. So they were some extra nights and some extra things we did before we actually left at the end of April. When we officially left at the end of April though, we did the first couple of months traveling around the States, again because a lot of places we hadn't got to go to. So during that time we stayed in 31 different hotels and visited 17 different states, and also headed to British Columbia in Canada as well to take an Alaska cruise, which James is going to get to. So there was a few places that we knew we wanted to hit, a few cities that were always on our hit list.
So the big highlights, these are not an exhaustive list, but we saw Chicago, which we had been to before, but we love Chicago, Denver, Moab, Salt Lake City, Jackson Hole, San Francisco, Palm Springs, San Diego, Los Angeles, Seattle, and Whitefish in Montana, which was really to go to Glacier National Park.
It was, yeah.
We went to a lot of state and national parks in those cities, and we crossed the train. We used the train to cross America to do all of that.
Yeah, I was kind of really focused on, I wanted to do some of the long train journeys. So we basically traversed coast to coast on Amtrak. And there was a lot of national parks I really wanted to go to. So during that time, we managed to go to Arches, Tetons, the Red Rocks, the Rockies National Park. We went to the Grand Canyon again. Just so many amazing places that, and more I didn't know of that we wanted to go to. Joshua Tree we went to as well. We were able to see the Colorado River, as well as some man-made things as well, like the Space Needle in Seattle. We'd always talked for a long time about going to. And also one of the highlights for me in Seattle, at least, was a tour of the Boeing factory, because I am an aviation nerd. So that's just a few of the things that you'll see them in the upcoming videos, but we were able to tick a lot of things off our list that we really wanted to do.
And now we're trying to catch up on the videos, so if you like and subscribe, as soon as we get those videos done, then you'll get a notification of it. Then we got to July, June. We took a cruise from Vancouver, and we did an Alaskan cruise, and instead of just coming back to Vancouver, we set off from Vancouver and then went as high as we could on a 7-day cruise to Whittier, which then meant we saw College Fjord, Glacier Bay, and we then got off and went on a train and did Alaska Railroad to do Anchorage, Seward, and Denali. And we were even evacuated from our hotel in Denali because there was a wildfire and it took out the power and water from the whole area.
It's a good job we're hardened Floridians, used to dealing with hurricanes, that we knew what to do with those, no water and no power. As part of that as well, we were able to see some amazing things, obviously glaciers and all the kind of nature that there was. But also we were able and lucky enough to see various types of whales, orcas, humpbacks, blue whales, bears, black bears, brown bears, bald eagles, marmots. I mean, so many things that we were so lucky to be able to see. A highlight for me was we took a trip from the Alaska cruise on the elusive Ballad, which if you've ever watched Deadliest Catch, it was a fishing boat on there. It's now a tourist attraction, and we went out on the boat. They told us all about crab fishing, and the one place they can go to is in an Indian reservation, and they're allowed to feed the bald eagles. And our boat was literally surrounded by like probably 25, 30, maybe even more bald eagles, which was absolutely amazing.
Once we'd done the cruise, we flew from Anchorage. It's been a long year. We flew from Anchorage to New York, and then the following day, after staying at the TWA hotel at JFK, which is fabulous, we then joined
Aviation
nerd. Never know how big an A380 is until it's parked to a 747 next to your hotel.
A 737.
737.
A little itty bitty 37, yeah, next to the 380.
Yes. We then joined the Queen Mary 2, which is the only remaining ocean liner in the world, and we cruised from New York, going past the Statue of Liberty, and across the Atlantic, and then we ended up in Southampton.
In the UK. Now, I should probably add at this point, there was quite a lot of big ticket items on here that we used a lot of points for, but also when we set out on this, particularly the first year that we decided we were going to tick off a lot of bucket list items. So there was quite a few things we did here that were extravagant that we're probably not going to do in the coming years as well. There's going to be the odd things, but we ticked off a lot of kind of bucket list, hey, let's just do it items.
YOLOs.
A lot of YOLOs, yeah. Like the TWA hotel. I'd wanted to stay there for a long time. And it's really expensive, just saying.
Especially if you have
a
runway view.
Yes, we had a runway view, and I think it was like $700 for one night, which is outrageous. Maybe not so much now, actually, but when we used to pay with points and you live in hotels, that's a lot for one night. But we figured we'd tick off some YOLO moments, the same as doing the Queen Mary 2. We talked about that for a long time, that we'd really like to do it, and so we did.
And we did it in Queen's Group.
We did, which was amazing too. But again, you'll see a video on that in the future as well. So that took us on to the next stage, which was our European adventure.
Okay, so we ended up back at Southampton, which is where the Queen Mary 2 comes in. And then we got a car up to London. It's the first time we've been back to the UK for 6 years to see family and friends. And as with everywhere that you live at, you don't necessarily see everywhere that you can. So we took some time when we were in the UK for about 6 weeks to go and do some of the things that we haven't done before. So we stayed at 4 different hotels, 1 Airbnb. We went to Scotland as a couple for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd only ever been to Glasgow Airport.
And I've never been.
We stayed in London for the week. We went from London on the Caledonian Sleeper.
Epic train ride.
That went overnight from Euston,
yes.
over to, we got off in Fort William in Scotland. From Fort William, we drove over to go and see Nessie in Loch Ness. Didn't see Nessie.
We didn't see Nessie, no. We did, however, have the world's smallest rental car.
We did. You drove it. We then did a boat tour on Loch Ness. We then went from there to Edinburgh on the train. So all of this was on the train. And we visited the Royal Yacht Britannia, which is something we really wanted to do. And we also went to Edinburgh Castle, which is a lot of steps.
Yes.
Then we came back to the UK, saw some relatives, just saw family and friends. And then from there, we caught Eurostar from London, St Pancras, and ended up through Paris, Brussels, and ended up in Amsterdam.
We did. So then we spent a week in Amsterdam, did the Amsterdam-y things, and I think we were there 5 days, 6 days. And weirdly enough, I had been to Amsterdam before, and I thought I recognised the hotel we were in, and that's because I stayed there before about 20 years ago, and I didn't realise until I looked at the photos.
It had changed the name.
It was a completely different hotel, but I was like, I'm sure this place is familiar. That's because I stayed there before. Anyway, so from there we hopped onto European Sleeper. That was a whole experience in itself. Overnight train from Amsterdam to Prague in the Czech Republic, where we stayed for, again, about another week and did some sightseeing, saw a doctor. That was interesting. And then headed from there, again, on the train. We did everything on the train, into Austria, where we did various stops. We were in Austria for about a month, I think it was. We went to Vienna, Zelensee, Klagenfurt, Salzburg, and finally Innsbruck. Had a great time. And from there, we headed on into Italy, into Verona, which was absolutely gorgeous. I really,
Say it.
What? It's nicer than Rome.
It's nicer than Rome.
I'm going to say that. I really enjoyed Verona. While we were there, we decided we wanted to try somewhere different for lunch. So hopped on a train and went to Venice for the day and had lunch there. It was a very wet day, but it was still really nice to go to Venice. We've been to Venice before, but it was nice. We ran over there and had lunch and came back, and it was just a really nice day. And then from Venice, we headed down to Rome. So throughout all of those journeys, we did all the kind of regular tourist stuff. We saw windmills in Amsterdam. We visited Prague Castle, which is amazing. If you're ever in Prague, definitely a must do. Tried all various food in each place. Drove the, we never say it right. I know I'm going to not get it right. The Grossenlocher, which is a road in Zelensee, which goes all the way up through the mountains, takes you up to nearly 10,000 feet.
Over to Salzburg.
Oh, just go over to Salzburg, you're right. If you ever want to feel like you're on an episode of Top Gear, this is definitely the road to drive. And I had the car that would not go into gear. I learned to drive in England on a manual stick shift if you're American. And this thing was, I'm trying to think of a polite word to call it, but it was not a good rental car and would not go into gear. So it was a challenge driving up there.
Do you remember the tractors?
Oh yeah, and there was a whole tractor event going on. You can drive a tractor. You can rent your own tractor to drive up the mountain.
And they even have tractors that have seats on the wheels. So you've got the driver there, and then you have 2 seats on each wheel. So you can actually be a passenger and cross over this
the mountain range.
The mountain range, going up to about 8,000 to 10,000 feet.
It was nearly, I think we went to one of the highest points, which was about 9,000 feet.
And you can do that on a tractor. And actually the road was closed because there was too many tractors at one point.
And honestly, it was quite nice to do that road as well, because part of what we had wanted to do in the US was to go into the Sun Road in Glacier National Park. And we were there about 10 days too early, which was really frustrating. It had usually opened by the time we got there, but it hadn't, because they were still having a lot of heavy snow. So it was nice that we got to do that instead, because you're literally up in the mountain peaks. It was incredible. But again, if you watch all our upcoming videos, you're going to get to see all of those adventures. The reason we got to Rome is because we had originally then booked a cruise, which was another bucket list item, to go through the Suez Canal to Dubai.
But before you do that, what did you want to go to Salzburg for?
Oh yeah, I did want to go to Salzburg for the Sound of Music tour, which was amazing. Again, you'll see that on the video. It was a real highlight of things for me anyway. You basically visit all the top filming sites. If you're into the Sound of Music, it's an absolute must do.
What was that Tyrol? Arbender Tyrol?
Oh yes, we did a Tyrolean evening with the dancers, the shoe planter.
I'll try and put that in, at least part of it.
And frosting and all of that stuff. Yeah, it was really good fun.
So I interrupted you. So
So we should have been on the cruise.
we should have been on the cruise.
Through the Suez Canal.
Yes, we did get to the Vatican.
We did get to the Vatican as well.
Yeah, but we should have gone on the cruise, and that cruise should have taken us from Civicettia, which is Rome, the port of Rome, but it's about an hour away, and that should have taken us all the way to Dubai through the Suez Canal.
And we should have also gone to Jordan. That was also a stop on there. This was like a massive bucket list itinerary for me anyway, because typically at the time of year those cruises run, it wasn't a time we could leave our business. So I'd had it on my radar for years, and we could never go because we couldn't get away.
And this was our first opportunity to do it. And obviously political tensions and troubles meant that they weren't actually going to go through the Suez Canal. So we were stuck. We were in Rome, and we know we had to get to Dubai.
Because that was already booked.
And we had certain things that were scheduled. So we had to get between the two. So we decided to do a Mediterranean cruise with Royal Caribbean, who was what we were going to do anyway. We were going to do a cruise with Royal Caribbean. And we ended up doing Greece, Cyprus, and Turkey.
Which we'd never been to Greece before, so we hadn't been to a lot of the Greek islands. So it wasn't a hardship to do that, honestly.
It was a really nice cruise.
It was actually a really nice cruise. We were both a bit like, we're a bit disappointed we weren't really doing what we wanted to do. I'm glad we got to see like Santorini, for example.
But never again.
But yeah, I've seen it. I don't need to go back. It was pretty and everything, but yeah, tick, done. But there were some other Greek islands that I think we both decided we would like to go back to.
Mykonos.
And Rhodes, especially, we liked. But we were the last ship of the season, basically.
And Kusadasi.
And Kusadasi we went back to. We actually went on a honeymoon to Kusadasi in 1993. So it was quite fun to go back there too and see how much it had changed. A lot, yes, it has changed a lot.
So when we got off that, we had to go from Rome to Dubai for the next leg of our year, and the only way we could really do that and get over there was to jump on an Emirates plane.
And what better way to do it than Emirates first class?
On an A380.
And again, we use points for that, yeah, with the shower and the bar and all of that good stuff. But yeah, again, you get to see that in another video.
So that's what we did. We flew over and then started our next leg, which was in Dubai.
So if we look a little bit different now, we had to stop filming because here in Colombo it got crazy stormy and the wind was whistling like crazy, so we had to stop. And it's got a bit darker, so the light looks a little bit different now too. But we're back. So the next leg of our journey after we arrived into Dubai really solidified why we wanted to do the status runs at the start of the year, because we had a stay at the Hyatt, the Grand Hyatt in Dubai for 26 nights, and this is really where the status came into its own. The whole thing was a point stay, but the Hyatt actually should have had a lounge, but it didn't because it was under renovation. But in place of that, they gave us access to their buffet for breakfast and dinner also included drinks. So basically we had a half board stay on points. They also upgraded us to a gigantic suite. So we had a massive living area and bedroom area, a huge bathroom. So the status run really came into its own there. So we were there 26 nights, and that was really just gave us a chance to catch our breath after we'd been running around like crazy around Europe. It really gave us a chance to sit down, relax, and really not do very much. Because after that, we had booked another stay at Al Maha, which is a Marriott resort in the desert. We did stay there a couple of years ago and absolutely loved it. But it's a lot of points. But if you get a chance, you should definitely go. But we really wanted to go back there and enjoy a little bit of peace and quiet and take it easy because of what was coming next.
So after we left Al Maha, we went to the Hilton Yas Island. I don't know how we managed to get a point stay of 5 nights at the Hilton Yas Island over the Grand Prix weekend.
Formula One Grand Prix. For
Formula
those that
One
don't know
Grand
what Grand
Prix.
Prix is.
But we managed to get 5 nights booked up, so we paid for 4, got 1 free, all on points. So every stay so far for the month of since we hit Dubai has been on points, and we managed to stay there for 5 nights, the Thursday before the Grand Prix till the Monday after the Grand Prix, and we also got tickets to go and see the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which was our first time ever going to a Grand Prix.
Yeah, which was phenomenal.
Which was cool. Which
It
we'll
was
do a
great fun.
video just about that, because it was great. We sat in hospitality,
We did.
suites,
And we have already booked to go to the Singapore Grand Prix in 2025 as well. And we managed to snag, somehow, a hotel stay when everything was booked up. And hotels are like crazy expensive that week.
on points.
On points.
On points. So we did the Grand Prix. We then went to the Maldives. No, sorry, we then went to the address back in Dubai because we were flying from Dubai. And this is the only hotel so far that we've actually paid for. And we paid for 3 nights at the address, which is
The Fountain View one.
Fountain View, or Dubai Mall as it's now called.
Yeah.
Which is a phenomenal view of the light show and the fountains.
And the Burj Khalifa.
And the Burj Khalifa, and it was great, but we just had 3 nights there before we flew out from there to the Maldives on Emirates first class. And we went to a hotel that we hadn't stayed at, which was the Hotel Amangiri in the Maldives.
Although we have been to the Maldives before, it was our first time at this particular hotel.
And it was the 3rd time we've stayed in the Maldives on points. This is the longest we've ever stayed because it was 17 nights using 15 nights of points and 2 reward certificates. So far, in all that stay, 60 odd days, we paid for 3 nights.
Yeah.
Because the Amangiri is a very expensive, anywhere in the Maldives is expensive. We got free breakfast. We got an upgrade that we had to pay a little bit for, and we got afternoon happy hour drinks,
Which drinks in the Maldives are expensive.
crazy expensive. So if you get anything for free, we didn't use it that much.
No, we actually didn't know.
but we did go there. And then from there we flew on points, first class from the Maldives down to Colombo, which is where we are today. And we've got a 5-day stay at the Hilton Residences before we basically go on from here to do 2025 in Sri Lanka.
So 2025, what's coming up? We're going to be here in Sri Lanka for about a month, just a little bit over a month. So we're going to be touring around here, headed to Sigiriya and Ella, doing the epic Kandy to Ella train ride, and then we'll be going to another Hilton and having another point stay in Yala, which is a national park here. After that, we are calling 2025 the year of the elephant because I love elephants, and obviously we have elephants aplenty here in Sri Lanka. But after this, we're going to be headed back to Dubai for a few days, where we're going to do a quick changeover before we fly out to Doha in Qatar, where we've got a few days and another point stay at a Waldorf Astoria, before we get on a cruise ship to do an Africa cruise, where, all being well, unless they cancel any more ports, we should be going to Tanzania, Kenya, Reunion, Madagascar,
And
Seychelles, and then we finish in Mauritius, where we're going to have a few days and another point stay in a Marriott property before we fly back to Dubai again, another quick changeover, and then we're going to be headed to Malaysia for 2 months and Thailand for 2 months. And there's a couple of places in Thailand we're going to stay that I'm very excited about that are very elephant related. That's all I'm going to say at this stage. And then we are going to be doing a river cruise on a traditional longboat. It's not, don't think Royal Caribbean when I say cruise. It's not that. It's not that. It's a traditional wooden longboat down the Mekong from Thailand into Laos. We're going to have a little bit of time in Laos before we head over to Vietnam, which we have been to before. but we're going to go to a couple places we haven't been to before, which is going to be up in the mountains. And then we are going to fly to Singapore for the Singapore Grand Prix before we have managed to snag Singapore Airlines first class tickets. Very excited about that, to fly back to the United States. And we're going to be in Florida for a couple months and see some friends there and have Thanksgiving there, and probably stock up on a few things too, before we finally get to head to our 7th continent when we fly to Argentina and take an Antarctica cruise. And we have actually cancelled this same cruise twice for various reasons. Once was COVID, and I won't go into why. We couldn't get away, but yeah, so we're hoping third time's a charm and we actually get to go on it this time. So tons of exciting things to come up in 2025 too.
The only way you're going to see them, like and subscribe.
All right, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.